Welcome to the Base Path Podcast, brought to you by New England Baseball Journal. Today's guest is the new Vanderbilt assistant coach, Jayson King. King was the coach of the Dayton Flyers since 2008. This offseason, he got hired by Tim Corbin to be his new assistant coach. Coach, thanks so much for taking the time.
Of course, man. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, congratulations on your new position. How's that going so far?
It's going great. Just busy, as you can imagine. A lot of stuff going on, and just get it assimilated to a new spot. But really excited to be there and get after it with everybody that's there, and obviously Coach Corbin.
Yeah, so it's a little bit unusual, I guess, for a head coach of a team like Dayton to become an assistant. And you never seem like an assistant. You seem like a guy who's used to being in charge. What was that process like for you to kind of weigh those options and make the decision to go to Vanderbilt?
Well, it's Vanderbilt and it's Tim Corbin. I think you combine those two things, and that's a tough thing to pass up. It's something that I've always had an interest in doing. Actually, interviewed for this spot like a dozen years ago, and it came full circle this time around. And I think this time around it was better timing with, my kids are in, grad school and college. Back then, they were just young. And so it seems like the right time and in place for us to make this move. And I think we're all excited about it.
Do you think it says anything about the state of college baseball now for mid-majors? It's with the transfer portal now and the NIL money, it almost seems like it's difficult for those mid-majors to make, noise in the College World Series or NCAA tournament. What does it say about the state of the game?
I would say yes and no. Obviously there's great things about being a head coach. There's great things at the highest level of baseball, which Vanderbilt sits at, but there's also great things at the University of Dayton. So I think it's just perspective on what you want. But for me, I don't see it as this huge reason for me making the move. It's just not how I looked at it. I felt like I was in a great position and it was going to be a great position moving forward. But I felt that the Vanderbilt opportunity was just something that was a thing that I always thought about doing and wanted to do at some point. And when the opportunity arose, we decided to go for it, and, we're extremely happy about it. But I don't see it as, man, I need to get out of here. This is a mess.
Right.
I just don't think of things like that. I feel just fortunate that I've been able to spend my whole life making a living in college baseball. And to me, that's always going to be appreciated on my end.
How did you establish a relationship with Tim Corbin? Was that back to your days at Franklin Pierce, or I know you guys are both from New Hampshire?
Yeah, he's from New Hampshire. I'm from Mass, but obviously I spent a lot of time coaching in New Hampshire, and I think there was just always a mutual respect there. Me for what he's done and what he did with that program and continues to do, and then just how he goes about his business. I think it's just first class all the way around. But it's the other things too, wanting to win at a high level. Wanting to compete hard and make the best players and people that you can and have an impact on young people's lives. So I'm on board for all that stuff. So we've kept in touch throughout the years, and obviously we had a nice game this year against those guys early in the spring. And I think there's just been always just a mutual respect, and maybe always thinking that at some point we were going to work together, and now we're going to make that happen.
Yeah, that's great. Now the position came about, and you can kind of tell how pressure packed it is down there in the SEC and at Vanderbilt in particular. This position came about because of the firing of last year's hitting coach and recruiting coordinator Mike Baxter and the catching coach Tyler Shoemaker. Obviously, that's high stakes. You don't hear about that a lot in the Northeast, where guys are getting fired on coaching staffs. What are the expectations for you? I would imagine they want to see some instant results.
Yeah, of course. I mean, anytime you make a change and, you go through a process where it's uncomfortable to move on from people that are great people and great coaches. So I get all that. For me, I don't worry about those things. I focus on the things that I can control as it relates to helping teams win and help making people better players and better people. So I don't lose sight of the things that are most important. But obviously, the same mentality that I've always had is just how do we go about developing the best team possible and getting on the field and trying to win championships? And I think it's the same there. But yes, it's not like the Northeast. It's not, um, it's different for sure. But my perspective remains the same. Is like, what do we need to do to win national championships? And that's really the focus.
Yeah, and that isn't necessarily the focus at a lot of D1 programs up here in New England. It's, what do we have to do to make it to, win the conference or,
Yeah.
maybe make it to a super regional, which was probably similar to what you had at Dayton. Now it's completely different where, you're trying to win national championships. The recruiting, I would imagine, is way different. There is NIL money. What are some of the biggest adjustments you'll have to make, at that level of baseball in the SEC?
I think probably thus far, I think the biggest adjustment is the heavy involvement with the agents. I think that's what I'm seeing right now is just there's a whole nother layer to getting a player. So it's just a little bit more complicated, but a lot of it remains the same as far as what that looks like, but it's just another layer to get through, really. Um, the baseball, it doesn't change all that much. It's the same. The game's the same. It's just how we go about preparing and more access to resources. And we have 14 people in the baseball building that are full time. It's just a whole new level of resources that we can tap into to be awesome for the guys that we're going to come across. But I think that one thing is the biggest thing, just another layer to the recruiting. But in general, I feel like I've worked my whole life to be in a situation like this, to be able to get in there and succeed and kind of hit the ground running. So it feels very comfortable.
Yeah. How does that NIL money work? Is it similar to the scholarships where, so every college baseball, not every, but, the premier D1 programs have what, 11.7 or 11.8 scholarships?
Yeah.
And then you kind of budget, how am I going to divvy this up among the players? Is it the same thing with agents where you say, hey, this is our pool of NIL money and how do we want to divide it to get, a new right-handed pitcher or a new first baseman or something like that?
Yeah, it's just in-house, just figuring out what we need to do to acquire the best talent in the country, on top of whatever's going on with school-related expenses. So it's nice to be able to have that. I think at the highest level, it's extremely difficult to acquire the best of the best players without it. So feel fortunate to have those type resources. But at the end of the day, it comes down to Vanderbilt, and Vanderbilt baseball. Like you have that too. So to me, whatever we have in NIL is great, but the fact that we also have Vanderbilt and Vanderbilt baseball to me is really more important than just money, because what we're going to be able to provide these kids that are in our program is going to last them a lifetime. A little bit of money is not going to last a lifetime,
Right.
but it certainly helps in acquiring great talent.
Yeah, Coach Corbin's always kind of had a New England, I guess, feel to his roster. He's recruited a lot of guys from New England who, have gone on, like guys like Tyler Beatty have gone on and played professionally, Rhett Weissman, Adam Ravenel, guys like that. And now, with you and Ty Blankmeyer on the coaching staff, obviously a very deep New England roots, along with Coach Corbin. Did he talk to you at all about the like intentionally trying to put a New England stamp on the roster? This is how we want to recruit. These are the guys you want to look at up there.
Absolutely. It's part of the DNA of the program. It's certainly intentional. I think we speak a similar language. Um, and there's that attachment to the New England players about the toughness and some of the competitiveness and the multi-sport athletes. So it's all stuff and ingredients that we look for when we recruit. But we also have Scott Brown in there, who's from New York. Um, So I think you got four guys in there that are extremely competitive and want to win at the highest level, but also want to do a great job for the student athletes that we come across. So I think that's a great combination of coaches. And then, we all have recruited in the Northeast for a long time, and we have an affinity for those players. So um, it's a really good tiebreaker if it comes down to two guys. I think we're all going to lean a certain direction, but we're trying to get the best players throughout the country. But obviously, the New England flavor um, in the coaching staff and on the roster is important. But there wasn't really I think for me and for Coach Corbin is it's not like can we just put together this staff of all Northeast guys. I think it was familiarity with what we bring to the table. I think that was the biggest thing, and the competitiveness and the toughness. And I think it just kind of led to being an all Northeast staff.
Hey, it's Bobby Moran, Director of Athletics at Thayer Academy. You know what? Experience matters, and Thayer Academy's professional coaching staff understands how to work with each student athlete to help them succeed. Our coaches and faculty are committed to ensuring both 5th to 12th graders feel known, connected, and prepared. This is Thayer's secret sauce, nurturing each student to reach their full potential. Here, success is truly a team sport. Are you ready for your child to take the next step? See what Thayer has to offer at thayer.org. That's THAYER.org.
Netting Professionals is proud to be the official netting partner of the Cape Cod League and the New England Collegiate Baseball League. Netting Professionals is in the sports business of improving athletic programs one facility at a time. Netting Professionals designs, fabricates, and installs custom netting, wall padding, windscreen, batting practice equipment, and much more for high schools, colleges, commercial facilities, and stadiums throughout the United States, while providing high-quality products and great service to numerous baseball programs throughout the New England area. To learn more and to speak to a Netting Professionals representative today, visit them at nettingpros.com. Remember, when it comes to netting, it's Netting Professionals.
Are you serious about playing your sport in college? Do you need a flexible education that allows you to maintain your practice and competition schedules while also preparing you to succeed at the next level? You should check out the University of Nebraska High School. UNHS is accredited and offers more than 100 online courses, including NCAA-approved courses to protect your academic eligibility. Students could earn a UNHS diploma or take a single course for transfer credit. Courses are college prep, self-paced, and available 24/7, 365. Enroll anytime and take up to a year to complete a course. Visit highschool.nebraska.edu today.
You hear so many people talk about Coach Corbin, almost like you hear people talk about Coach K or John Wooden and guys like that, where it's all about, it seems like they're so intentional about their leadership and about molding, men, not just athletes. What do you think is different about him? What separates him from, most head coaches?
I mean, laser focus. I think we would start there, but I think a complete understanding of what's important, and then being intentional as it relates to that. So you can get, at the highest level, you can get lost in these little pockets that make you focus on winning or something that at the end of the day wasn't the most important thing when you started coaching. And I think he's always kept his priorities in line to make a difference in young people's lives. And I think that's where it all starts for him. And he's just, I've only been there for a short time, but he's an impressive human being. And someone that, you'd want to send, your son to play for, because, when he gets done, being there for 3 or 4 years, that when they get out of the program, it's going to look a lot different than when they first arrive. So to me, that's what it's all about. But I mean, this is a guy that's he's different in a lot of ways, and I think special in a lot of ways as well.
Yeah, one of the first things you mentioned, when we jumped on here was the in-season meeting that you guys had, Dayton and Vanderbilt last year. Dayton beat Vanderbilt 8-5 in a February midweek matchup, and I didn't know how much stock to put in that, in the fact that you're now on the Vanderbilt staff. How meaningful was that? I mean, obviously, you got a chance to see Coach Corbin and see each other coach, and he was probably came away impressed. But how much do you attribute this opportunity to the fact that you had that midseason matchup?
Yeah, well, it didn't hurt, right? So I think my guys were great, as I transitioned from Dayton to here. But I told those guys, some of those guys that texted me directly, like, one of the guys in particular had 3 hits, home run, bunch of RBIs, and I told him that at some point I'd pay him back and sent them the dollar bag emoji to him.
Yeah.
So. Yeah, it was a great night for our program at Dayton at the time, and it was really meaningful for me as well. Just being someone from the Northeast that always looked up to Vanderbilt and be able to go in there and do that was just a great night for everybody. But yeah, I think certainly it didn't hurt. And he was very complimentary after the game, as to me. Doesn't need to be that way, of course. So it was a great night, but appreciated how he handled that. Obviously it wasn't a great night for him and that program, but for us it was special. And he's the kind of guy that sees that and knows how important it is on the other side. And, made it clear to me that he appreciated us coming in there and doing what we did.
You mentioned thanking, your guys from Dayton for, helping to kind of pave the way for this opportunity. Do you see any of those guys having an opportunity to transfer to Vanderbilt at any point, or is it kind of two way different levels?
Yeah, so we're gonna have 2 guys from Dayton on the Vanderbilt roster. So very excited about that.
Wow. Now, were you seeing more of that, or was it frustrating to see that over the last couple of years? I've heard a lot of coaches at mid-major say, with the way the game's changing and the increased use of the increased recruiting through the transfer portal, it had been frustrating for them. Were you feeling any of that at Dayton?
Yeah, last year we were surprised by one guy, I thought that was, it was tough, just because we had a great relationship with this guy, and then kind of at the end of the year meetings, it was like, what just happened? So, and this year it was a little more complex. I mean, we had some really good players, and I think it's become like way out there as far as the norm. I think last year was becoming the norm, and then this year it was absolutely the norm. Like the best players were, thinking about leaving before the season even ended. So I think that's hard. But to me, it's about the relationships, and it always has been. And when it doesn't feel like it's like that, to me, it's hard. It's hard to swallow. But I understand where this is at as it relates to those guys, as it relates to me moving on. Like I totally get it. But it's still, sometimes hard to swallow as it relates to the relationships and guys moving on. But at the end of the day, as coaches, we do it too. So I don't fault those guys, but the relationship side of it to me has been one of the harder things to get past as it relates to some of the meetings that I had to have at the end of the year.
Yeah, it's almost got like guys don't look at it as a 4-year college anymore. They're like, I'll assess my options after each and every season. Are guys using the transfer portal more like free agency, just to say, hey, I'm available if there's a big program out there that wants me, or are most guys that enter the transfer portal leaving the school that they were at?
I mean, from my perspective, at the University of Dayton, I think off of that team, there's going to be at least 3 guys that end up at SEC schools. So those guys probably look at it as what you're talking about, but there are other guys that move on that just need to get to a place where they're going to be able to get on the field. And then they need to decide, do they want to be at the school that they're at, or do they actually want to try to be a good baseball player? And the only way that you can become a good player is if you get on the field. So that's something that comes up with other guys, but the top level players and the really talented players, those guys look at it as is what else is out there for me, and how can I make my situation better.
Are there any takeaways from Tennessee's national title this year? Like, did they do anything ahead of the curve in terms of recruiting? Were they heavy in the transfer portal, or, were they getting homegrown guys? Like, what did they do that you can look at and say, hey, maybe we need to shift in this direction?
Well, I think you have to have both. I think you have to have, the high school foundation, and you have to have the transfer portal stuff to kind of fill in any of the gaps that you've had. But no, I think it's baseball. I mean, how the game works is, do you have enough talent, and then can you get them to compete at the highest level? And I think if you do those two things, you got a shot. And I think if I take away one thing, it'd be those things, those two things. Get a good mixture of the high school talent, and then send in some guys that can fill some gaps that are older, and then just compete at a crazy high level and make sure you have enough talent. And clearly they did those two things.
Yeah, one of your former guys, Scott Luazzo, that's how you pronounce it, right? I always struggle with it.
You got it.
Yeah, he's the new coach at Dayton, which I'm sure you're happy about. How much influence did you have in that hire? Did they ask you your opinion? And also, how do you think he'll do in that spot?
Yeah. So, every athletic director has their own view on what they want and what they think a fit is for, their particular programs. But, in talking to, Neil Sullivan, who's the athletic director at Dayton, what he was describing was basically someone that had a similar background to myself and to our soccer coach there. And I basically just told him, I got the guy for you. And it's like a no-brainer. And it just so happens that's, Scott's at Penn State, which Neil went to school there. Obviously, my knowledge of what he is and who he is and how he would fit in there was significant. And, it just kind of happened pretty seamlessly. But yeah, I'm really excited about him being there. He's a phenomenal human being. He's a phenomenal coach. He'll fit in extremely well with the administration and the players and everybody that's there. And I know, like, I was fortunate. I went there, and the program was at a level that wasn't where it needed to be, and where definitely not a place where it should be. And then in my seven years there, it's now you look at it and it's at a whole nother place. But I think he's the guy to get it to even past where we brought it to, and I'm looking forward to following what he does and rooting hard for him to have unbelievable success over there.
Yeah, I bet he will. I wanted to ask you about, so earlier you mentioned the resources at Vanderbilt just being different from, anything we'd probably see up here in the Northeast, or maybe you saw at Dayton. And obviously, the stuff with the agents and the NIL money is a piece of that. Where else do you see the resources just kind of being a lot more lavish, I guess, than you would see at, mid-majors or these programs in the Northeast?
Yeah, well, it's Vanderbilt, so just at the university, everything's done at a high level.
Mm-hmm.
So I think you start from there, and then you have a program at the school that's at the top of the heap. So you go there kind of second, but I mean, it's legitimately anything that you need to win at the highest level. Like, if we don't have it, we could probably get it. And then it's just laser focus from the top down, whether it be just in the program or from the athletic department. It's just anything, whatever it takes to win and develop players. That's really where it's at. I mean, just to give you an idea of what this all looks like. So the baseball facility alone, I'll try to go somewhere and I'll end up in a different spot like multiple times in a week. That's how big this place is.
Yep.
So you're talking a whole nother level of just stuff like 2 strength coaches, nutrition stations, unbelievable coaches, recruiting guy in the background, player development guy, unbelievable ops person. I mean, you can just go on and on. It's never ending. So it's just it's just plentiful. I guess that's the best way to describe it.
Yeah, and like you said, they can make it enticing enough to leave a head coaching position to become an assistant. So obviously they have the resources. Another assistant, Ty Blankmeyer, has really established himself nationally as one of the top recruiters in the nation, and he'll probably have an easier time now that he's at Vanderbilt. What's your relationship like with him, and what do you know of him as a recruiting coordinator?
Yeah, so I've known him for a long time. Obviously, his dad's an unbelievable coach. And
St.
Corey,
John's, right?
yeah, yep.
Yep.
Corey Mascara, who played for me and is a good friend of mine, was at St. John's when Ty was a player, and then he went to Wake, and they were on the same staff. And then Ty being from the Northeast and being scouting some of our guys, so there's just a lot of similar paths, like, and similar people that we know. So I think when it's like that, there's always this connection. And I got to see him several times, from my time at Franklin Pierce to my time where I'm at now at Vanderbilt. But he's always someone that you could see, just going through and doing the things that he has been doing at a young age. He's just he's got an old soul as it relates to the baseball side of it, which puts him ahead of a lot of guys his age, and because he's been around the game for so long. So I think Coach Corbin's done a great job of getting 4 people in there, like on the coaching staff, that align in a tremendous way. And I think he's a big part of that, and will be a big part of that moving forward.
You mentioned that you're on the Cape. Obviously, we're in the thick of the Cape League season, or I guess maybe the start of this Cape League season. But is that something you always did, even when you were at Dayton? Go and check out guys on the Cape, and what is the purpose of is it a recruiting visit, or are you looking at guys who are already on the Vanderbilt roster? What's going on down on the Cape?
Yeah, so I think it started when we first moved to Dayton. My kids were in high school, so our initial reaction was, in the summertime, let's just get them back home and get them around their friends. And fortunately, my mom owns a house in Falmouth, so
Wow.
she's had that, and we've been going there since we were young. So it started that first year when we went to Dayton, and then it's just become a habit after that. But now it's turned into, in the summertime, where else would you rather be? You got the Cape, you got the NECBL, you got the Futures League.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just, if you're going to set up in a spot, that's a pretty good spot to be at, and then you can move around wherever else you need to go, as far as any plane type trips that you're going to need to take. But it's just become the spot to be as it relates to figuring out what's your immediate needs for the fall. So it's really, when the season ends, it's like, how do we make our roster better next year? And usually, if that's the case, the focus is on guys that are in these really, really good leagues. And then, yes, just kind of finishing out our roster for next year. So there's still a few needs that we're trying to take care of, and also see some of the guys that are in this league. So I know kind of what it's going to look like when they get to campus. So I started out the summer here, and then I went to Vanderbilt, obviously, for like a week, came back, went back to Vanderbilt. Now I'm back here. So it seems like a place that's, you just kind of need to be at the moment, as we're figuring out our roster for the fall.
Yeah. I know that you had the midweek matchup. I don't know how much of a scouting report you put together for, against a midweek February opponent. So how much time did it take you to familiarize yourself with the Vanderbilt roster? Did you have to sit down with Coach Corbin and kind of go player by player? How does that work?
Yeah, we've gone player by player quite a bit. Some of the incoming guys I've seen in person. Obviously we played against them in that midweek, so I saw the whole team operate. And then there's been some guys at Vanderbilt that are working out, so I've been around those guys a little bit and got to know them, and then seen some of the guys here on the Cape. So kind of checking off some of the boxes as it relates to the guys that will be there in the fall. Haven't seen all of them, but I've talked to the staff about some of the things that they're good at, some of the things they need to get better at, and have a pretty good idea of what it all looks like.
Attention coaches, need baseball bat bags that last? Meet No Errors, crafting premium quality bags since 2004, the top choice for durability. Choose from stock bags for quick delivery or our semi-custom program for personalized logos in just 10 to 12 days. For a unique team look, try our full custom program. Let No Errors design your next team bags. Visit noerrors.com. That's no-errors.com for details. No Errors, where durability meets style.
Are you looking to increase your batting average and reduce strikeouts? Max BP Reaction Training is the #1 training tool to improve hand-eye coordination, have better pitch recognition, and see off-speed adjustments. Max BP is used and trusted by baseball professionals. It's portable and easy to use, and is the ultimate training tool for athletic vision. Max BP invites all Base Path podcast listeners to receive 10% off their order by using code MAXNEBJ24. To get on base more, visit maxbp.com. That's maxbp.com and watch your batting skills increase.
Looking to keep up with all the latest news and information on New England baseball? New England Baseball Journal and BaseballJournal.com are the premier resources for information and inspiration on the New England baseball scene. Have every issue of New England Baseball Journal, the magazine, delivered to your home or office. And don't forget to stay in the game every day with a digital subscription to BaseballJournal.com to receive baseball coverage on clubs, college commits, prep and high school, Division I, II, and III colleges, showcases, rankings, and much more. Get in the game and behind the scenes now by going to BaseballJournal.com. Just click on the subscribe button and start the subscription that is right for you today. New England Baseball Journal is a Seamans Media publication. Seamans Media. Inspiring, informative, insightful.
Well, Coach, do you have a few more minutes to hang in there for our 3 up, 3 down segment with our producer?
Yeah, of course.
Okay, this is our producer, David Yaz.
3 up, 3 down.
Yes, welcome back to 3 Up, 3 Down, where our panelists will receive 3 questions. These questions are secret. They have been sealed in a popcorn box and tucked away, and they don't know what they're getting into here. Anyway, question number 1, and Coach, you can start with this. We all remember if we've witnessed a no-hitter, but we also tend to remember the near misses when it comes to a no-hitter. Can you recall the most memorable near miss of either a perfect game or a no-hitter that you either witnessed personally or saw on TV or whatever it may be?
Yes. I don't know the name of the pitcher, but it was a blown call at first base.
Galarraga, right?
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
So that's the one that comes to mind. That was heartbreaking.
Yeah. It's doubly heartbreaking because it wouldn't happen today, right? That was before replay. Yeah, yep. And it would have been an easily overturned call.
No doubt.
I have trouble watching that clip. It makes my stomach hurt for both of them because the ump blew it and he knew it and he admitted it. That was really weird. The commissioner just should have stepped in and said, you know what, we're just going to give it to him. Anyway, yeah. How about you, Dan?
Yes, I did see a no-hitter. I just looked it up to check the year. So I watched a no-hitter from Terry Mulholland, former Philadelphia Philly. He was a left-hander. Didn't have a great career, but he did have a no-hitter on August 15th, 1990. He made an all-star game in 1993, so it wasn't a bad career, I guess. But yeah, he wasn't like it wasn't like watching Nolan Ryan.
And you were there in person for that game?
No, I watched that on TV.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, you didn't really answer the question. The question is about near misses, Dan. But that's do you have a near miss?
Near miss. I didn't Kurt Schilling have one that was close and somebody laid down a bunt at the end of the game to break it up?
That does ring a bell. I was at a game once where Red Sox pitcher Danny Darwin took a no-hitter into the 9th, which is weird. He actually had one good season with the Red Sox, and it got broken up, but there was a fly ball to center field that it wasn't an easy play, but 9 out of 10 outfielders probably would have jumped up and caught it, but we had Billy Hatcher in center field, and he was really short. So that didn't work out. Question number 2, and we'll throw this to you, Dan. If you had to pick an pro athlete from another sport, another major sport, to play on your baseball team, who would it be? And I'm going to give you 3 choices.
Okay.
Donovan Mitchell of the Cavaliers, standout basketball player for the Cavaliers, apparently was scouted as a baseball player. We all know Patrick Mahomes, the quarterback for the Chiefs, has baseball in his blood. His dad was a major league pitcher, and he was, I think, a shortstop as well at one point in his life. And then Sidney Crosby for the Penguins was also a baseball prospect as a young man. So your job is to pick one of them, and if you like, tell us why one sport might actually translate pretty well to baseball.
Yeah, I'd go Mahomes. His dad was a major league pitcher, and his arm is just he's got, an elite arm that you just don't see, anywhere else. No, I don't think any NFL quarterback has maybe Josh Allen's right there, but Mahomes has a crazy arm. He can throw from different arm angles. I think he'd be a great pitcher.
Yeah, he's probably the only player I can think of that occasionally looks like he's playing baseball when he's playing football. He throws that sidearm thing like a shortstop.
Yeah, no look passes. He's crazy out there.
How about you, Coach?
I'd go with Mahomes also, but the guy that's on my mind when you started to speak about this is Tom Brady.
Yeah, I had
having that guy being in your locker room, being a catcher and leading a team. I mean, that would be pretty damn cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, he would look good in a baseball uniform too. You could just see it. All right, final question for 3 Up, 3 Down. Coach, we'll give this to you first. In a fantasy world, if you could switch places with one of 2 I'm going to give you 1 or 2 players. You pick sort of which career you would like to have. One is Mike Trout. We all know Mike Trout. He's headed to the Hall of Fame, I think, probably a no-doubter. Although he's only played in the postseason once, if I'm not mistaken. And then the other choice is Paul O'Neill, who was a very good player, but not a Hall of Fame player. He won 5 World Series, 1 with the Reds and 4 with the Yankees. So which career would be more personally fulfilling? Coach, what do you say?
Paul O'Neill, easy. A lot of rings and still plenty enough money.
Mm-hmm.
What else you want?
I like that answer, and I'll tell you why you're correct in a moment, Coach, but we'll let Dan answer first. Go ahead.
I'll go the other way, just to be different. I'll go with Trout just because he probably loves dominating, on the field as much as he does. And also Paul O'Neill made it look miserable. He's always arguing with umpires.
No, that's a good point. Yeah.
Throwing the bat after an out. He made it look like he was not having a good time out there.
That's a good point. He did look miserable. That Paul O'Neill face he used to make when something didn't go his way.
Yep.
The question in basketball is often posed as, would you rather have Robert Horry's career or Charles Barkley's career? And Horry was known as Big Shot Rob. If he was an all-star, he maybe only once or something like that. He was a good player, but he was known for clutch shots. He won a bunch of rings, and Sir Charles won none. Then again, it's kind of hard to argue with it. I think we'd all like to have Sir Charles' life now and again because he seems to enjoy everything so much. But yeah, I'm with you, Coach. Paul O'Neill, he may not go to the Hall of Fame, but what a great career, and I like the rings too. Anyway, you've both done very well in 3 Up, 3 Down. And we'll send some peanuts and Cracker Jacks over to both of you to commemorate that. So well done, and back to you, Dan, to wrap things up.
All right. Well, thank you to Coach King for joining us on the Base Path Podcast. Rate, review, subscribe to the Base Path Podcast on your preferred platform. Thanks to our producer, David Yaz. The Base Path Podcast is a Seamans Media production.